Welcome, everybody, to episode 16 of the Practice Squad, a show where we talk about football and make the replacement refs look like pros. I'm your host and fourth string quarterback, Jeremy, joined each and every week by my co host and backup long snapper, Joseph. How's it going, man?
Hey man, we're talking playoffs today. Playoffs? We're talking
Playoffs.
playoffs? With
Playoffs.
playoffs?
The regular season flew by just like Christmas. So we are live right here on YouTube each and every week at 8:30 p.m. Pacific. Today we are on at 2 p.m. Pacific to do our special time for our New Year's Eve show. Next week we'll be back at 8:30, right after Monday Night Football. Although actually there's no more Monday Night Football. There's no Monday Night game tonight. It's all on Sunday or Saturday from here on out. So scratch that. So if you're tired of the punditry or just want a fresh voice, come listen to a couple random dudes talk about football and have a good time. So this week we've got kind of a season overview. We're going to be looking at a recap of a couple of this week's games and then just kind of talking about the season in general, some of the highlights, the low points, disappointments, surprises, etc. Lots of awesome discussions. And as always, we'll close our show with our final regular season prediction tally. And if you wait till the end of the show, you'll find out who is just better at life. Is it me or is it my co-host Joseph? So stick around to find out. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So we missed last week because of Christmas Eve. So last week, Joseph and I and a friend of ours had the opportunity to attend the Bears at Niners game at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara. And man, it's always fun to go to a football game. No matter whether it's a good bit game or a bad game, I've always been fortunate enough for it to be a good game when I've gone, but it's just the environment, the excitement, the enthusiasm, the experience is just a lot of fun. So even though the Niners lost, and they did so in a very frustrating way that we'll talk about in a second, it was a lot of fun. So I guess my biggest thoughts kind of coming out of that game were, number one, Bears fans travel really well. I am almost 100% positive that half of that stadium was filled with Bears fans. And not only that, but in the section that Joseph and I and our friend were sitting in, it it must have been what, 75% Bears fans?
Easily.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. So,
It was an entire section.
yeah, they're
It
like,
wasn't just like a few rows. It was an entire section of Bears fans
right.
around us.
Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty bad. But luckily when the Niners were on D, the stadium did get pretty loud, and it was for whatever reason I noticed the Bears fans when the Bears were on offense would cheer. And it's like, oh, I almost stood up and said, yeah, keep cheering because Mitch won't be able to hear the play call. So it was fun, a lot of energy. I lost my voice screaming. It's just a great experience. But let's talk about the way the game ended, because the game was competitive all the way through. The Niners took the lead at the beginning. They were up 6-0. Then the Bears scored a couple of touchdowns. The Niners got another field goal. So the game ended 14-9. But the Niners were driving in the last, I think it was minute 20 seconds left or so.
Yeah.
And it was a third down and was it
Four.
3rd and 4. And Mullins gets out of the pocket.
Oh, wait. Is this the play at the end of the game?
Yeah.
No, it's 4th and 4. It was 4th and 4 at the end of the game.
Were they on 4th down?
Yeah, that's why, because they turned the ball over with like a minute left to the Bears.
Oh, that's right. You're right. So 4th and 4. And Mullins rolls out. He escapes the pressure in the pocket. He rolls out looking for a receiver. And on the right side of the field where he rolled out to, there was one defender that was probably about 10 yards in front of him, kind of at an angle. And instead of just running 4 yards to get the easy first down, he decided to chuck the ball all the way to like the 5-yard line, where Marquise Goodwin tried to get the ball, but he had no chance because the ball was thrown out of bounds.
Yep.
And man, I just was just baffled. Like, how could we, how could you make a mistake like that? Now, there's no guarantee they would have won, right? Even if they had converted, if he had run, they converted. There's no guarantee because they would have had to score a touchdown. So there's no guarantee that they would have won. But still, it would have made the game a little bit more exciting and a little bit less frustrating. But nonetheless, it was a really fun game. And there was actually something very controversial that happened within the game that we're going to save till later in the show. And Joseph has a little bit on that. So outside of that, Joseph, did you have anything else to kind of talk about from last week? Anything big we missed?
No, not really. I did want to just talk about some fun stuff at the game, though, that we went to. So not only were the Bears fans, did they travel well, but there would just be random times throughout the game where, like, especially our section would be like, go Bears, go Bears.
Yeah.
And it just got super loud. We're like, what is going on? And of course, we had the typical drunk, middle-aged guy in front of us. A few of those actually being obnoxious. And yes, Nick.
Did we have that last year? Because the very first game I went to in 2014, I had that a drunk middle-aged guy in front of me. That was an Eagles fan. Did we have a
Titans fan
in front of us last year?
No, I remember we sat next to Titans fans and we were talking throughout the game, and they were really polite. So other than that,
that's right. Yeah, they were polite. So everybody learned from the Titans fans.
Yeah. And yeah, Nick Mullins, you're right. It wouldn't have won the game, but they would have been down at like the 45-yard line, around 55-ish seconds left. And you got to know better than that. But the last part, to me, other than the game experience with my best friends, but itself was the best, was you have like the stairs, like coming up with the sections to walk into a new section. And I see this middle-aged guy. And there were tons of Bears fans that had like the classic Mike Ditka, mustache and the slick back hair and the vest and the shirt.
Oh, yeah.
But this was the best. This was unique. Tons of people had that. So you see this middle-aged guy walk up, right? He's got on the mustache, the hair, the vest, and the shirt. Behind him, his wife. Same thing. Behind him, his daughter, 2 daughters, and a son. This whole family of 5 are walking up. The girls had their hair pinned up, so they look kind of more male. They all had the fake mustaches, the sunglasses, the vest, and the light blue shirt. It was amazing. I actually initiated a clap, and I started clapping when I saw this. And then the whole section slowly started clapping.
Yeah, the whole section clapped at that. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I didn't see anybody else in uniform or in a costume that day.
I saw a few others, but not a whole family. And it's like they were walking up like it was like a celebrity show or something. It was great. So fun time. Hopefully we can go next year. We'll have to wait 6 years to watch Miami Levi Stadium, but we'll try to find a time next year to go.
Well, who knows? Maybe we can travel to Florida.
Not
gonna happen. Okay, so so we'll talk about the controversial component of that game a little bit later. But let's go ahead and roll into our final Dolphins and Niners discussion of the year. And this is going to be slightly rewired. So normally we talk about the specific game that we watched this week. And while we do have a couple points, it's really more about kind of where the teams left off the season and any kind of major high or low points, any major statistics to talk about, and maybe perhaps what we're looking forward to in the off season. So, Joseph, why don't you go ahead and start off with your Dolphins?
Yeah, so I'll start with the specific game. So I was busy, obviously, for the holidays and stuff. So I did not watch a complete full any game.
Whoa, nobody's ever too busy to watch football, dude. Come on.
But I'm glad I did miss most of the game, or a good part of the game, because it was so bad. So here's the idea. I skipped through some plays in the second half. I basically only watched about 10% of the first half. And just with how much or how little I saw, it was probably one of the worst and sloppiest football games I've ever seen in my life, including the terrible blowouts I've seen in college, and including some of the high school games I went to. It was terrible. The Dolphins, again, I brought it up earlier. I can't who what team it was, but this whole a college team can't beat the NFL. No, 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 no. For how terrible Miami played yesterday, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, you name it, would have whopped on us. It was awful. Terrible play all around. We gave up. Tannehill needs to go. Um, there was a really bad ejection on Kiko Alonso, which I'll get into. That ties into the Mitch Trubisky play from the Niners game. So I'll do that later. Yeah, the Bills, they actually had heart yesterday, and we had none, and we gave it to them, and it was terrible play. As for an overview of the season and how to move forward, not as bad as the Niners. I don't think anyone has had struggles with injuries as bad as the Niners had this year. I mean, this might be one of the worst in NFL history, in my opinion.
It's got to
But
be. I've been
yeah,
trying to research that this week to find if
yeah,
there's ever been a team that's had it worse.
in my watching games over 15ish years, I can't think of it. Um, the Dolphins, though, had it bad as well. I mean, um, a little bit on defense, and mostly, losing Albert Wilson and Jakeem Grant. We lost them earlier on. Those were big playmakers for us. Not having their presence, we definitely felt that. Tannehill obviously being off for a few weeks. But really, as we've been saying now for weeks, both Jeremy and I, we need another quarterback. We cannot go into next year with Ryan Tannehill, period. I don't care about his contract situation. If we owe him money, if we have to pay him $25 million to leave, nothing against him personally. Just as a starting NFL quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, we can no longer have him. We have a solid wide receiving core, right? Devontae Parker, he needs to be more consistent, but he has talent. I like Kenny Stills. Amendola, still reliable. Jakeem Grant and Albert Wilson, like I said, are playmakers as kind of like a hybrid running back, wide receiver, and kick returner. Frank Gore got injured. That's going to be a bummer. Hopefully he comes back next year and plays strong like he did this year. Kenyon Drake is showing promise and talent. Our defense had pieces, right? Xavier Howard, Rashad Jones, Fitzpatrick, had, and even our tight end, Gesicki, he was poorly or underused. He was not used enough. He showed flashes of talent, and we did not take advantage of that. So really, a lot of our failure hinges on team leadership at the coaching level and at the quarterback level, and we need a new quarterback. So I'm hoping that, I don't know if it's going to be through free agency or draft or what. I don't know how we're going to do that, because I think our draft, I think we're like maybe 15th in the draft. I'm not sure. Have you seen the draft order?
I
I know the
haven't, but
ninth.
I mean, you guys ended 7-9, so I imagine you're going to be in the top half,
Yeah,
right?
but I know this is a weaker quarterback. They're saying this is a weaker quarterback draft um, than previous years. So I don't know how we're going to do it, Dolphins fans, but we need to replace Ryan Tannehill, because we have the pieces. Our wide receiver core and our secondary, we can get better, um, be more consistent, throw in a good quarterback, and we're a 10-win team easily. So I'll end there. Hopefully,
So Miami is actually 13th, so that's not
13.
bad.
I
And if
don't
you
know.
if you guys had won yesterday, you would have bumped all the way down to, I apologize, I think down to like 18 or 19th. So that
So
loss saved you like 6 spots.
I I'm okay with them. Miami hasn't really been risky in draft picks um, as much, so I'm okay with them trying to pull the trigger and trade up and maybe trade future draft picks or players away. I want them to take a risk and to be bold, and to get the quarterback that we need, whether it's through free agency or draft. So I'll leave it there.
Um, Yeah, so rolling into the Niners, I don't have much to say about the Dolphins. I think that's a pretty good overview of their season and that atrocious game yesterday, which was actually tied 14 at halftime. So that one really got away from you. From you, Joseph. From you, not from them, from you. It got away from you. So the 49ers at Rams game yesterday was terrible. There's really not much good to say about it other than that Kittle broke the single season record for receiving yards by a tight end. Not just the franchise, but the NFL record for receiving yards by a tight end, which ironically Travis Kelce had just beat earlier in the day, and then Kittle beat that by having it by outperforming him. So, and he did it on a glorious 30, 40 something yard touchdown pass. So that was really exciting. That was the one high moment amidst a just horrendous day for the offense. We were so this final score was 48-32, but let that deceive you not. A lot of that was garbage, and the Niners turned the ball over in 4 of their first 5 drives. There were 3 interceptions and a forced fumble. Just terrible performance overall. We had several more injuries. Laken Tomlinson, MCL. Jeff Wilson was out for something. I'm not sure, a shoulder issue, I think. So that was our fourth running back to be injured. So we had Alfred Morris there for the rest of the day. He played fairly well. So we had multiple injuries, and we ended the season with 14 players on IR. Not to mention, the plethora of other injuries that occurred throughout the season, the guys that ended up getting healthy or just were able to play after maybe a week or 2 out. So yesterday, I think, was just a rude reminder that the Niners have a ways to go before they can compete with teams like the Rams. I think the injuries obviously play a big part of it. Not having Garoppolo, not having your starting running back and quarterback, not having, several guys in your secondary, that not having guys healthy is a component. But I even think even if they did, that there would still be a ways to go before they could compete with a team like that. And I think the biggest, we've talked about this many times, but the biggest pieces the Niners still need are defensive end, and they need to pick up a defensive end in the draft. They need corners and safeties. They need a wide receiver, a big number 1 wide receiver, and they need interior O-line help. I think those are all addressable this offseason. I could definitely see them addressing all of those positions in a very good way in one offseason. And if you bring back all these other guys that had ACLs and MCLs and can come back healthy next year, I think we can have a good season. But there's a lot of work to do. So that's really all I have to say about the game. But my general thoughts kind of on the season are, so first, the Niners secured the number 2 overall pick in the 2019 draft, which, of course, that means a lot of losing, but it also means that we're going to get a chance to pick up a great player. Then they ended the season with 14 players on IR. And the Niners set 2 records this year, NFL records, that you don't ever want to set. The first one was fewest takeaways in a season. They had 7. That broke the record from the 1982 Baltimore Ravens, who had 11. And there were actually 4 other teams that have had 11 in different years. The second record that they broke was they had the fewest interceptions in a season with only 2. And that broke the record of 3 that the Houston Oilers set in 1982. But that was a 9-game strike-shortened season. So the takeaway department was absolutely horrendous this year and is going to have to change. I think the net minus was somewhere in the high 20s at the end of the season, maybe low 30s. So That obviously has to change if they want to have any chance of making it in the playoffs. And then finally, so they finished, despite all that, they actually finished 16th in total offense, which ESPN and all these sports websites calculate as total yards, right? I don't necessarily agree with that, but 16th in total offense, 15th in pass, 13th in run, 23rd in points scored, and then defense actually finished 10th overall, 12th in pass, 12th in run, and 24th in points. So that's exactly why that's deceptive to me, is that they look a lot better in yards, but points-wise, they're in the bottom third of the league. And I feel like points is where it really matters.
You play to win the game.
Yeah, you play to win the game. You don't play to give up less yards. So the whole bend, not break strategy. So that's about it. That's the Niners season. It's over. We're gonna wait till March, till free agency, draft in the spring, and then on to the 2019 regular season, where hopefully we don't lose our starting quarterback after the third game. So we'll find out what happens. I think we're probably gonna do a draft show. We're hoping to. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, I'm excited about next year because I think there's a lot of potential. All right, so moving into major injuries news. Joseph, you had a couple points on this one. I think some about the Texans specifically.
Yeah, so the Texans are going to be hobbling into the postseason. So Lamar Miller, the running back, his status is out right now. I didn't know this. I think it's been for a couple weeks probably. Or no, it was 6 days ago. It said Demaryius Thomas is on injury reserve. I know that was a big pickup to try to replace Will Fuller in his injury a couple months ago. J.J. Watt is questionable, and I think someone else was questionable as well. So the Texans are kind of hobbling into the postseason. So
what's his injury?
Who?
J.J. Watt.
Oh, let me check again. I'll have to check.
Okay.
It just said questionable.
Okay.
And in terms of news, just more updates kind of on some of the games. Just wanted to run through pretty quick. So Eagles clinching, going to the playoffs. Nick Foles has been 4-1 this year as a starter. So they lost that first game. Or no, they won the first game when he played Atlanta. But he's been 4-1 when the last 3 starts he's played with them. So it'd be interesting to see if he's going to take them deep to the playoffs. The Steelers miss out on the playoffs. How sad is that? We'll talk about that later. And I'll just wrap up with Falcons, Bucks, Cowboys, Giants. So those are the 2 games I watched the most of because they were close and they're actually really exciting. The Falcons were a disappointment this year. We'll talk about in also in our later segment, but they had a comeback win, which was really exciting to watch. And Julio Jones, man, everyone knows he's a Hall of Famer, but if he might have a run for one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. Him and Matt Ryan have a great connection, and I hope to keep watching that for years to come. And then lastly, I'll end on probably the most exciting game of the week, Cowboys-Giants. So great back and forth game. Was looking like the Giants are probably going to take it because they came back. So the Cowboys are up, and it's like, okay, third quarter, Cowboys can try to ice this game. Giants come back, then they take the lead. Then the Cowboys have to come back and score on. Did you see the end of that game?
I didn't.
Okay, it is worth watching. Watch the fourth quarter of the Cowboys-Giants game. It is by far one of the most exciting quarters of football this year. And how it ended was amazing. But I just really want to talk about one play that really bothered me. So Dak Prescott makes this great throw to Beasley for the game-winning touchdown, and probably one of the best catches of the year. And then they decided to go for it for the 2-point conversion instead of tying the game. They decided to go for the win, which I think was very gutsy, and I like that. I like that call because they didn't really have anything to play for except pride.
Right.
They already had the 4th seed locked up. Oh, hold on. Sorry if you guys got that. I was actually looking at it. So,
it was so amazing. You had to watch it on live.
Well, I was looking at the I was looking at the stats, and ESPN decided to turn the volume on. So sorry if you got blasted on that. So they score the 2-point conversion, and everyone gets excited, as you'd expect. But number 99, they come on the field, they get called for an unsportsmanlike conduct. Taunting, right? Taunting, number 99, Dallas. Because of that, it cost them 15 yards on the kickoff. The Cowboys kick it off. The Giants pick it up at the 15-yard line and then proceed to have a near 35-yard return. They're now near the middle of the field. They have a minute left, and they just need a field goal to win the game. And due to some poor passes and some good defense by the Cowboys, they just go, 3 and out or 4 and out and didn't complete a pass. Outside of my uncle having a heart attack from seeing the joy of the Cowboys having a great play to win and then them losing to their stupidity, outside of that, I wanted the Cowboys to lose after that because I cannot stand certain bonehead plays. It reminds me of 2016 Seattle at Carolina. Remember that, Jeremy? You remember we talked about it several times. And Seattle's driving, and they get a play where they get out of bounds. Carolina would have stopped them. It would have been too long for a field goal, and the guy hit him late going out of bounds. 15-yard penalty. They go up. Seattle kicks a field goal. They win the game. These are just unacceptable bonehead plays. If you want to celebrate after you win. Wait till after the game is done and celebrate all you want. But don't cost your team the 15-yard penalty on the kickoff and almost lose the game. Because Eli Manning had the ball with a minute left at the 50-yard line, basically, because of your bad decision to run on the field. And if 99 was probably a defensive player. So, and then taunt. What are you doing? You're a grown man playing a kid's game, making millions of dollars. Wait till the game is done. Celebrate it afterwards, because that would have been embarrassing if you lost this game because of that bonehead play. So I will end with that.
Yeah, I hate that too, and good thing they weren't actually playing for something in this game because
he would have been added to my list of players to cut. I mean, he's already almost there anyways. But if this actually meant something, he would have been added definitely to my list of players to cut.
Yeah,
and banned from the NFL forever.
All right, so that's our major injuries news for the week. We're going to move into our commentators say the darndest things segment. And yesterday during the 49ers game, as with every week, there was a lot of raving about Aaron Donald. And this week,
MVP.
I forget. Yeah, actually, one of the guys was, for half the game, was making the argument that he should be MVP. So
But I wasn't there.
Maybe threw up in your mouth a little bit. So, nonetheless, so he was talking about Aaron Donald, and he said, Aaron Donald, those hands, the strength, he trains like an athlete.
The only one. He's the only one.
He's the only athlete. So he did clarify later that what he meant by that was that so some of his training regimens are similar to corners and receivers, where he does certain speed and like jumping exercises that D linemen don't typically do. But when he said it, it was like, oh, okay, glad to hear that he's the only athlete on the field. Like, none of we don't consider NFL players athletes. So, yeah, no, I beyond the, I probably could have picked up a quote on the MVP thing, because that man, if only people understood that the V stood for value.
Yeah. Well, hey, Aaron Donald's competing with Julio Jones, who apparently has the longest arms in the league.
That's right. Julio Jones has the longest arms in the league. So now we're going to move into our one of our special topics, and that is our kind of disappointments / surprises of the season. We're going to take a look at that from a bunch of different perspectives, but I'm going to hand it over to Joseph because he's got a lot of thoughts on this one.
Yeah, so just a quick overview. Here's the baseline. So a surprise is obviously looking at something from the good angle, and disappointment is bad. So for instance, the Broncos. The Broncos, I think they finished 6-10, 7-9.
The Broncos?
Yeah, 6-10. I think.
I'm pretty sure they were 6-10. Yeah.
Okay,
they lost yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
So
6-10 then.
just an example, that was neither surprise or disappointment. So if the Broncos had gone, 3-13, that'd be disappointment. If they'd gone 11-5, that'd be surprise. So just wanted that to be kind of the objective. Um, didn't put too much thought into this. Just what I wanted to pick out what came to mind initially. Spent a few minutes on each. I came up with the top 10 for each. They're not in any order. They're not in any specific order. And what was like the first things that came to mind for the disappointments and surprises for this year? So I want to start with surprises because they're the quickest and easiest to talk about, and there's some big disappointments that Jeremy and I are going to discuss that we've been highlighting to throughout the show. So I'll just name them off, and Jeremy, if you have any comments, questions, then be spontaneous. So number one, Patrick Mahomes. He took Alex Smith.
Hugest disappointment of the year.
Yeah. He took an Alex Smith-less team, and wow, what can I say? I'm glad I coined the term Patrick Mahomes because it definitely showed through. I think I might have predestined that one because he was great. He put up one of the best quarterback seasons of all time. 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards. Was great on third down, fourth down. Even added a few touchdowns running. No one was expecting him to play this well. I think he had 7 games with 4 more touchdowns this season, 10 with 3 or more. He played big in big-time games, Rams, Patriots, played the Chargers twice, played the Ravens, had a tough schedule, and played really well. So that was a big surprise. Didn't think he was going to play that well. Baker Mayfield and the Browns. Very proud of them for 7 wins. And they should be, that whole city should be proud of Mayfield and the Browns. That was a surprise seeing them get 7 wins. Number 3.
And more importantly, I think for making the decision to fire Hugh Jackson and kind of move on from that era and reset, because it was very clearly,
yes.
I mean, their season totally turned around after that.
Yes, definitely. Number 3, running back play in general. The running back play was so good this year, especially in the NFC, that it led there to being several snubs in the Pro Bowl. Terrible snubs, but you can't really get around that because you can only pick a few. So there's kind of a case on both sides for why both sides would be upset. But Todd Gurley, wow, he played well. Ezekiel Elliott's might have even played better. I think he had more yards from scrimmage. Saquon Barkley, the rookie, he's going to get Offensive Rookie of the Year. He was amazing. Christian McCaffrey, over 100 receptions. I think he ended up with 111 receptions. That's really good for a wide receiver, let alone a running back who's adding on another 1,100 rushing yards on 5 yards a carry. So great running back play overall. Fun to see that. Number 4, Andrew Luck and the Colts. Andrew Luck had a stretch of 8 consecutive games or 3 or more touchdowns, which is a second all-time, tied with Peyton Manning, second all-time, and just behind Tom Brady with 10. Willed his team to the playoffs. It is, well, I don't have it in here now, but I'll just say it now for the disappointments. It's a shame that Tom Brady got to the Pro Bowl ahead of Andrew Luck. The Colts, I don't know if you knew this, Jeremy, the Colts are 9-1 in their last 10 games.
Yeah, I was gonna look that up because they've just been winning constantly.
Andrew Luck has willed this team into the playoffs, and if you want to go on relative value, he should be considered for probably most valuable player of the year. And even if you want to go on absolute value, he's probably 3rd behind Breeze and Mahomes. So shame that he didn't get into the Pro Bowl and Brady did. But Andrew Luck played well, ended up with 39 touchdowns. If he threw one more touchdown, he would have been one of only, I think, 4 quarterbacks, 5, to ever throw for 40 or more touchdowns twice. No one has done it 3 times. Peyton Manning did it, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Dan Marino, and almost Andrew Luck. So he might be the only quarterback ever to do that. Who knows? Number 5, Xavier Howard for the Dolphins. Proud of him. Had 7 picks this year.
Yeah, he looked great.
He was good on the secondary, made big plays. Number 6.
He was one of the few players that made Miami watchable.
Yes, yeah, he was. And I kind of, though they weren't consistent, that secondary of Jones, Patrick, and Howard, I think is very solid. If they can be more consistent, they're going to be a dominant secondary, in my opinion. Number 6, and like I want to preface again, definitely not in order. Number 6, George Kittle. Wow. Just wow. He was great. And definitely, Jeremy, if you want to talk about him for a minute, a little more.
I'll just add one more thing to that. Wow.
Number 7, Michael Thomas, wide receiver for the Saints. Drew Brees has certainly made him look like an all-pro receiver. He had 125 receptions. But here's an even bigger stat. He caught 85% of his targets thrown to him. 85%. Let that sink in, guys. That is amazing.
I'm assuming that's the highest above a certain threshold for this season.
Oh, yeah. And I would be shocked if that is not some record. I mean, I'll have to look into that more, but 85% in catching 125 receptions, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Quick trivia. My uncle told me this on Christmas. Which receiver / tight end has the highest reception percentage of all time in a career? You should know him. You've ripped into him for some commentators say that darnest things.
Okay.
Five.
What? Yeah, you're gonna turn on the Jeopardy music on me.
We can't have too much dead air.
Okay, so receiver or tight end. Can you give me a clue which one it is?
The fact that my uncle said it should be enough of a clue at this point.
Not sure if it is, but
then you have not been paying attention. Jason Witten, our beloved Jason Witten, with the Cowboys.
He has the highest.
Yeah, my uncle told me that he's the highest career reception percentage. Obviously over a certain career threshold, certain 400, whatever, how many catches.
Right.
But yeah, okay. He has the highest.
Well, then maybe he should talk. Maybe he should know what he's talking about more.
I know, because he's not a very good
on Monday nights.
All right, we're gonna move forward. Number 8, Seattle Seahawks. I know, and their bounce back. And now having an actual run game and a passionate defense. We have to be objective here. Everyone knows how Jeremy and I view the Seahawks, but we want to be as unbiased as possible. And it was a surprise that they won 10 games. They've had a solid run game. And with all of the defenders that have left or been injured on their team the past few years, going from that Legion of Boom, they're now playing pretty well and pretty scary right now. So number 9, another credit to Jeremy besides the Browns. The Bears.
The Bears.
Who would have thought the Bears would be 12-4? No one. Not even Jeremy and the sleeper. I mean, congrats to him for picking them as a sleeper, but no one thought they'd be 12-4. Absolutely amazing. Number 10, lastly, the Texans. I picked them as my sleeper, and people thought they were going to give Jacksonville a run for their money, but 11-5 almost should have had the 2 seed. Looking at you, Texans. You gave it to the Patriots. But still, 11-5 is great. They had some injuries. They played well. Hopefully they can go far. All right. Those are the surprises. Now to the disappointments. So I realized here that the order I gave this is not the order I want to say them, because I want to save the best for last. So I'm recreating another order that doesn't matter. Number 1, the Steelers. 8-7-1. Pathetic. That's just it. Pathetic.
Well, especially the last 5 games of the season, because I'm pretty sure they were 1-4 or something in their last 5 games.
Yeah, it was really. They had a legitimate run for the 2nd seed.
Yeah, and we both thought that they were going to take it back at midseason.
Yeah, and they had that Patriots-Steelers game. And I think that the Steelers ended up winning, right? Didn't the Steelers beat the Patriots?
I think so.
And we thought that was going to kind of seal the 2nd seed, and they didn't. In fact, they didn't even go to the playoffs. So Pittsburgh should be embarrassed for themselves, and I don't know how they're going to move forward, what they're going to do, but that was really bad. Number 2, Tom Brady had a big drop this year. He ended the season with 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards, but still one of his worst statistically, or worst year statistically, and much worse than last year. Don't see him playing past next year. I know he came out recently and said he plans on playing for like 3 to 5 more years. That's crazy. Come on, Tom. You're better than that. You're smarter than that, and you're better than that. You're not going to be playing for 3 to 5 more years. So,
Well, his body will catch up to his words soon.
well, it's already started, and I cannot see him playing after next year. But I guess he'll have to learn the hard way. Number 3, the Bengals. Almost as pathetic as the Steelers. That's all I need to say about the Bengals.
And Marvin Lewis did get fired.
Yes, which is
So,
finally. How
yeah,
many years?
finally.
Yeah. Number 4, the Jags. No excuse. Unacceptable.
Yeah, that was a
Jacksonville.
horrific misuse of talent on that team for sure.
That's not a rebuild. That's an implode. That's an implosion. And I don't know what they're going to do after that. Number 5, the Vikings. We weren't expecting them. Initially, we were expecting them to play really, really well. And they kind of show their true colors. Their defense maybe wasn't as good as last year. Their run game was weak this year. Cousins did play well. Cousins did have a good season, but didn't hit at the right time. And the fact that they missed the playoffs and go 8-7-1 was also disappointing. Number 6, even worse, the Packers. Yikes.
So which one do you think is worse, the Packers or the Jags?
Ooh, I'm gonna say Packers because at least with Blake Bortles, you're like, they're like a 9-17 plus or minus 2 to 3 wins based on some luck and consistency and yada yada. How's their run game? But you have Aaron Rodgers and just the meltdown with the offense, and their defense did nothing this year.
And firing Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I'm worried about them, and I know Rodgers is locked up for a few more years. I don't know if he has a trade clause in there or not, but honestly, not that they should, but I can imagine the Packers now trying to trade Rodgers. I can imagine if they don't pick it up next year, I can imagine them trying to use him as a talent to trade, right? And then go into a rebuild stage. Clay Matthews is getting older. Devontae Adams has been a solid wide receiver they want to use. They no longer have Jordy Nelson. They still don't have a run game. Like, if they wanted to go to a rebuild after and they don't do well next year, that would be the time, and to trade Rodgers somewhere to get a bunch of picks.
Huh. Yeah.
If they do not make it to the playoffs next year, or possibly win at least one playoff game this year, I think that they should entertain the idea.
I don't think that's wildly unfair. I just think that when you've got one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time on your team, you kind of do whatever you can to keep him. I think that their issue has been whoever their GM or GMs have been for the last 5 years do not know how to pick defensive talent. And so they have had a pretty bad defense for years. And
their run game hasn't been good in a long time.
Their run game's been pretty bad for a while.
And he's been sacked. He has to be on the run like every play now.
Right. And especially with his injuries he's had, like, they need to protect him better. And I think their personnel evaluation, I think, is really the heart of the problem.
Yeah.
So I didn't check to see if they fired their GM as well. Today, Black Monday.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But I guess we can look into that at some other point and maybe come back and talk about that next week. But yeah, I think that's the core of their problem.
Yeah, because we were picking the Packers to be the 1 seed, I believe, I think we both had them in the top 2 seeds. Rodgers did actually have a decent year, but it just did not work out. Number 7, Kareem Hunt. I mean, I'm glad the Chiefs still got the 1 seed and are looking strong and are a favorite for the AFC to the Super Bowl. But how special they could have been with Kareem Hunt, and he himself, 2 years in the league and looking like he could continue his career. And if he stayed consistent, possibly a Hall of Famer. I mean, he just came into the league with a bang last year as a rookie, and he wasn't a fluke for this year at all. and obviously had that domestic violence situation and is away from the league. And who knows if and when he'll ever come back. That was disappointing.
Yeah, I think I have a feeling he's gonna end up more like a Ray Rice, um, just in terms of the league sort of just saying shutting him down and saying we're just not going to be part of this.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that's where it's going to go. So I doubt he's ever going to come back,
yeah.
which is
Number
a
eight,
shame, of course, for a variety of reasons. But yeah, no, I'm just happy that Kansas City was still able to, like you said, keep the 1 seed and still be, I think, the favorites going into the playoffs. Although I actually do have a comment about I sort of have a potentially new favorite team.
ooh,
That
let's save it.
Yeah,
Let's
we'll
save it.
save it for our predictions.
Okay. Number eight, Derek Carr, and just the Raiders overall. We didn't think they were going to be good. They were who we thought they were, but they were even worse than that. Um, you know, John Gruden is considered a good quarterback coach and a good guy to mentor and deal with quarterbacks. And I don't know if it was just a miscommunication between the two or Derek Carr was overrated, which in my opinion, I don't think he is. I don't know what it was this year, but Derek Carr turned the ball over a lot, did not was not very prolific. Their offense did not click at all. I know they lost Amari Cooper through the season, but they just had nothing going for them. Marshawn Lynch got injured. He's probably not going to come back. I know they have all these draft picks, so Gruden better work his Chucky wizard magic here the next couple of years with his draft picks. Because if he doesn't,
Wait, Chucky? What's that from?
oh, dude, he's been called Chucky. Yeah, dude, he's Chucky.
Oh,
You
I
know?
okay. So
Oh yeah,
forgive
dude.
me. When you said
Yeah,
Chucky, I thought of the movies.
no, I know, but he, yeah, Google John Gruden Chucky, and you'll know
Okay.
exactly. Oh
I'd
yeah,
like to know the background of that story.
oh yeah, that's from like when they went to the Super Bowl when he left the Raiders to go to the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers beat the Raiders in like the 2002 Super Bowl. So, but anyways, um, Raider fans are going to be really hating John Gruden, especially after he went to the Bucks several years ago and lose that and took away the Super Bowl. So they're going to really not like him if he can't figure out the draft situation over the next few years and bring their team back because, oh boy, Raiders aren't looking good. And the last two, and these are the best ones I'll say for last. Number 9, Le'Veon Bell. I don't need to say much about that. We already kind of ripped into that
Yeah, we
situation,
kind of beat that dead horse a
but
lot of times.
but that is very disappointing. And I he might have shot himself in the foot not just once but twice, because maybe one, he's probably not going to get the money he thought he was going to get because of his how he handled this. But two, who's going to want to pick him up now, or at least pick him up for the money he wants? I doubt it's going to happen. So he lost $14.5 million this year, and probably millions more over his career by how he dealt with this. And lastly, and
Wait, don't say it. Let me guess. Brrr, drum roll. It's Joe Flacco.
no, 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 no. Um, he played like we were expecting, just average or
He
below
played
average.
like we always knew he would eventually play.
Exactly. So no, I have it here. Personal foul calls on late hits on quarterbacks or sliding quarterbacks.
Ooh, yeah, okay.
And I'm saving this for last because um, instead of me continuing the discussion, what I'll do is I'll have Jared. I'll go first and talk about the Kiko Alonso issue that happened in the Bills game, and then I'll hand it over to Jeremy, and he knows exactly what to say, and he'll talk about the Niners play that happened at the game last week. Um, so Josh Allen's running. Josh Allen has proven to be a great running quarterback this year. I think he had like 3 consecutive games or 90 plus yards, which I believe was a record. Doing it as a rookie. He's a rookie this year, right? Was it last year?
I
This year.
think it's this year. Yeah, no, it's this year.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
he's in the same class as Darnold and Allen
and
and yeah,
Rosen.
and Mayfield.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Rosen. So Josh Allen, he ran all over us, a month or so ago, and he ran all over us yesterday as well. And there's a play towards the end of the, I think it's third quarter, And Allen's running, and I did the math. I did a quick estimate, how fast they're running towards each other. And very quick estimate, but on the conservative side, they're approaching each other, right? Their relative speed approaching each other is about 10 to 12 yards a second. So I want you to think about how fast that is, right? 30 something feet a second. That's kind of fast. What do you think your reaction time is when you're only, I don't know, 3 to 5 yards out and you see the quarterback sliding? You've seen the quarterback running now for 5-10 yards, and you're both running full speed at each other. You're going to hit him because he's a runner, and this is the National Football League, and you're allowed to hit players have the ball. And then you see him start to slide. What are you going to do? Well, you have a full head of steam, but you're going to try to get out of the way. So here's the sad part. Not only did Kiko Alonso get called for the penalty, he was ejected from the game. But it wasn't even a late hit. It was an attempt. They kicked him out of the game for attempting to have a late hit. Unless you can read someone's mind, which last time I checked, we can't do that yet or at all, then how can you judge and discern by watching what happened and say he actually tried to hit him? Because what I see and what I've seen in the past from Alonso trying to get out of the way, he had that one where he put his arms behind his back like a dolphin and tried to avoid hitting the quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
What I see from Alonso is doing the job of, I don't know, maybe a linebacker and trying to hit the quarterback who's run hundreds of yards on other teams this season and is really good on his feet. They're running full speed at each other. Josh Allen finally decides to slide down. Kiko Alonso lunges at him and at the last second turns his head. So even though he looked like a missile, he turns his head. And his lower back barely hits Josh Allen in his side. There was no shoulder to helmet, helmet to helmet, helmet to anything. There was low back to waist, and it wasn't even a violent hit. And instantly, one of the Bills players jumped him. They almost like was going to beat him up, threw the penalty, kicked him out of the game. Even if it was a late hit, I still want to dispute this. How do we deal with the running quarterbacks? But to be able to look at a play and to judge someone's intent and say, you know what? Yeah. He was definitely trying to kill the guy. We're going to kick him out of the game. The NFL has to do something about this. Jeremy, we'll probably need to save it for later due to time's sake for our remedy, how to fix this. But I'll end there with that. Now I'm getting all fired up, and I'll let you talk about how terrible the Trubisky play was as well.
Yeah, so a similar situation happened at Levi Stadium last week, and there was a play where Trubisky rolled to the left. He was running towards kind of along the sideline. He had been running for several yards at this point, had picked up a full head of steam, and safety number 36, Marcel Harris, was running towards him. Now, DeForest Buckner was also chasing him, and Buckner was slightly more inbounds or closer to the center of the field inbounds than Trubisky was. And we rewatched this play like 20 times, and Harris was coming at Trubisky. Both had full heads of steam, and the moment where on slow-mo we could pick up that Trubisky was beginning his slide, and this we defined it as the moment where any reasonable person would be able to figure out that he's beginning his slide. Marcel Harris was only 3, maybe 4 yards, 5 yards tops away from Trubisky. Now, given that he's just beginning his slide, he's still going to have pretty much full steam, and Harris has full steam. Harris comes running in, and he hits Trubisky, who's obviously already down on the ground because he was sliding. And there was no... You're going to have to refresh my memory on this. I don't believe there was any helmet. There was no helmet to helmet, and I don't believe there was helmet to anything.
So a little bit. So it wasn't a violent hit. It was
more like chest, shoulder, maybe the lower part of the helmet to helmet.
Yeah, so like his chest. Yeah,
it was mostly the chest. I remember it mostly being the chest hit the helmet,
Took his arms out.
Yeah,
Remember, he
he
like
put
go
his arms out like he was a flying squirrel because he didn't want to look like he was purposefully trying to hit Trubisky, right? Like he was trying to
yeah.
that's any defensive player's way of saying I have momentum and the only way that the best that I can do to avoid worse contact is to raise my arms and show that I'm not purposefully trying to hurt this person or hit them harder than I need to. I felt like Harris made adequate effort to demonstrate that. And unfortunately, this play happened right on the Bears sideline. So there were 20 Bears players waiting there on the sideline, and instantly after Harris hit and got up, he just started, tussling with the guys on the sideline, pushing around, shoving, and then, 3 or 4 more Niners came in, and then after several seconds, Sherman just came in like a bullet, pushed the other Niners aside, got into the center of the group of Bears players and just started punching people. And just, hitting guys on the head, throwing his arms like he was a crazy person. And then he finally got kind of pulled away by somebody and the Niners walked away. And it was like the whole engagement lasted for several seconds, but then when we were, and you feel this a lot more when you're actually at the game, the refs took upwards of 10 minutes to figure out what to do. Apparently they had to call New York because New York needed to help them figure out who needed to get ejected, because Sherman threw punches, but then there were other Bears players that also were punching people, and they ended up ejecting 3 different players. So Harris got a 15-yard either, I forget if it was would have been, I forget the penalty that you get. Is it roughing? It's not roughing the passer because he's not a
Personal
passer
foul.
anymore. It's just a personal
Personal
foul,
foul.
either unsportsmanlike conduct or whatever. You got that, and then Sherman got ejected, and 2 Bears players got ejected.
But they did. We'll say this. I want to say that the refs did make the right call, because I think it was 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 4, and because there was also a holding call on the Bears. So, but they made the right decision, which was, hey, this was a mess. There were penalties everywhere. They basically just ejected the guys that were perpetrators and then restarted the play over.
Yeah, no, I think to credit the refs, minus the Harris call, which at best was iffy.
Yeah.
I think the way they handled the rules in that situation and making sure it was right and restarting the play, I think everything minus the Harris part was handled perfectly. I don't think they could have handled it any better. So, yeah, I will talk some other time about this sliding rule and how to handle that, because I think defensive players are just at this inherent disadvantage when they are trying to tackle a legit ball carrier that's past the line of scrimmage. Although I do want to, so before we move on to our year in review segment, I want to read I want to read a quotation from our neighborly friend Richard Sherman, who when asked by the media after this,
hold on. Which, by the way, I want you to, everyone, we have to preface this. He is a Stanford graduate.
Okay, so Stanford graduate Richard Sherman was asked by the media about this confrontation that he had where he started throwing punches. And this is what he had to say. "These are my guys. I don't care at the end of the day what the deal is. You gonna do all that and you let him go, and it took too long for them to let him go. So I went in there to grab him, and they continued to pull and jerk and grab on me. I'm a grown man. I'm a grown man with kids. I don't care about any of that, And at the end of the day, they're going to get punished for it. You going to catch these hands. I'm a grown man. You don't grab, pull on me. I don't put my hands on you. You don't put your hands on me. You put your hands on me. You're going to feel me."
Yeah, bro, you're gonna feel me.
So,
Oh boy.
yeah, now we know that Sherman is a grown man with kids. We're gonna move on to our 2018 year in review segment to I guess our penultimate segment before we get to our predictions. Where we're just going to talk briefly about some of our kind of season overview things. So we're going to rewind back to the beginning of the year when we made some predictions. So we're going to start with our sleeper flop predictions. So if you remember, if you were there when you watched our first episode of the season, Joseph and I each picked two teams from each conference. One that was going to be a sleeper team, and the other team that was going to be a flop team. And my sleeper teams were from the NFC was the Chicago Bears, and from the AFC was, I don't even remember because I'm pretty sure it was wrong.
Browns.
The Browns. Okay, so both of my sleeper teams were absolutely correct. The Browns came back from a 0-win season to a 7-win season, and the Bears totally turned around and ended the season 12-4 and look like really good going into the playoffs. My flop predictions, on the other hand, were not good at all. My AFC flop of the year was Kansas City, and which I thought would happen after they kind of gutted their defense, but it turns out that their absolutely amazing offense more than made up for it. And the other one was the NFC. I predicted that the Seahawks were going to flop, and they ended up with one more win than they did last year. So not even close to being a flop. So Joseph, what were your sleeper and flops?
So my NFC sleeper was the Niners. But I would say it's a pseudo failure because Garoppolo got injured right away and then just had the myriad of injuries. So given what they had, I think they played as well as they probably could have. But so I don't think it's neither a failure or a success, but I'll let you be the judge of that for the Niners.
I think I would say it's hard to know what would have happened, but I think I agree that they would have played better. It's hard to know how to handle injuries, though.
Yeah. So we'll just call
it neutral. We'll call it a scratch.
My other sleeper was the Texans for the AFC. So I think that was good picking them. My flops. So I'll start with the AFC first. My backup was the Raiders, but we knew they were going to be bad. The Titans. My flop was the Titans. And I went back and listened to the show, and I think I said that they were probably going to be like 7-9 to 9-7. So I think the flop part that I called there was they weren't going to stand out. Marcus Mariota wasn't going to have a great year, and they weren't going to take over, and they didn't. They finished 9-7, missed the playoffs. So I'm confident in saying that I got that one.
I don't know about that, man. I mean, because didn't they finish with the same record?
Well, I know, but they. I guess
and they were in the they were competing for the playoff spot yesterday. So I don't know if I'd call that a flop.
But they weren't. But I said they were going to go, 8-8 plus or minus 1, and that they weren't going to be big like people were expecting. People were expecting more. Basically,
I guess it's about sort of the past performance versus future expectations debate.
Yeah,
but
but that's an iffy one.
And your NFC flop?
The Falcons.
Okay, you got that right.
I nailed that one. They should have done better. They could have done better. People were expecting them to do better. And Matt Ryan did his best. Matt Ryan, actually, you look back, Matt Ryan had a really good season. Like 70% completion percentage, almost 5,000 yards, I think 35 touchdowns and 7 picks. Like, he willed his team to those wins. And in some of their several losses, he played really well. So, like, Matt Ryan is in no way to blame. He played really well. But yeah, they scratched and clawed even to get to their 7 wins. So I'm glad I got that one right.
So next we're going to cover MVP. This is going to take like 3 seconds because we did an MVP segment a few weeks ago where we both said Patrick Mahomes was in the lead. And there were a handful of other guys that if they had had really good end to the seasons, maybe would have had a chance. But Mahomes threw his 50th touchdown pass yesterday and is clearly the top for MVP. I mean, no rational person, I think, can really argue with that.
Though there'll be plenty from
Though there will
ESPN.
be plenty that will say Aaron Donald and blah, 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 blah. But
It's Mahomes.
it's Mahomes. Okay, so this will be fun. So we did at the beginning of the year, the very first show, and this was before the very first game of the regular season happened. We did playoff predictions. And so I'll go ahead and I'll read mine. So for the AFC, and this was just the top 6, like the 6 teams that would make it, not necessarily who would win the division versus wild card. So for the AFC, I said New England, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Kansas City, Oakland, and Indianapolis. I got 3 of those right, and 2 of those horribly wrong, and 1 of them almost right. So Pittsburgh obviously was the big disappointment. Jacksonville and Oakland were horrendous teams this year. And then I guess just why don't you do your AFC and then I'll do my NFC.
Yeah. So our top 3 were the same: Pats, Steelers, Jags, and then I had Chargers, Texans, Chiefs. So I got the Chargers and Chiefs right, but the order was flipped between the wild card and the winner, and so I got 4 right. But the Jags and Steelers, like Jeremy, we both were. That was just horrendous on how that ended.
Yeah. Okay, so then NFC, I said Philadelphia. So I'll go by team name. So Eagles, Vikings, Saints, Rams, Packers, Falcons. Again, I got 3. I got Eagles, Saints, Rams. Vikings were an almost, and then Packers and Atlanta, not so much.
I said, and I'm happy about this one because, oh my gosh. Oh, no, wait, never mind. I was reading the actual standings. I thought, I didn't predict that. I predicted them all right. No, so here's what I said. I said Packers.
I was going to say you could say that nobody would know, and then they could just go back and watch the first episode to prove you wrong. So
So I picked Packers, Rams, Eagles, Saints, Vikings, Niners. So like Jeremy, that's only 3. We actually had the exact same pick, except he had Falcons, I had Niners. So again, Packers, Vikings didn't make it. Niners obviously didn't. So 3 out of 6.
All right. So did you have anything more for year in review?
Well, I just wanted to give the actual standings. So I have those here.
Of course. That's fine.
Yeah. So for the AFC,
people don't know already.
Yeah. So for the AFC, Chiefs took the 1 seed. Patriots took the 2 seed, so they have the first round bye. Texans are 3, Ravens are 4, and the 2 wild card teams are Chargers and Colts, respectively. And then for the NFC, Saints are 1, Rams are 2, they have a bye. And then 3 and 4 seeds are Bears and Cowboys, and the wild card will be the Seahawks and the Eagles. So I think looking at our schedule here, I think now it's time to go to predictions.
Yeah. So ready to go to predictions. So let me double check my
Don't say the score yet. We're gonna.
No, I'm not saying scores yet. No scores yet. Okay. So we're gonna flip what we normally do. So this week we normally read what our current record is after the previous week, and then our predictions for the upcoming week. Since we have all the games done, we're gonna read what we predicted for this last game yesterday, and then we'll tally it up and then figure out who actually won for the season record.
Yeah. So what happened was Jeremy we flipped back and forth. He was ahead of me, or we were tied for most of the season. And I think 2 weeks ago he was 2 games ahead of me. I picked up 1 game on him, and then going into this last week, after the Bears Niners game we went to, we differed on 5 games. I went 3 and 2, so we went into this last week tied. So we were tied, and
we were tied at 148, 91, and 2.
And so now we're going to go game by, and we don't know how we did this week of each other. So we're going to go game by game and who we picked, and then tally up and see who won.
All
And
right, so here we go. Here we go.
apparently, according to Jeremy, who's the best at life?
Yeah, who's the best at life? You're about to find out. In and this counts for also for not only for 2018 but also who's best at life in 2019 too. Okay, so uh, the first game, Falcons at Bucks. I picked Bucks.
Falcons.
Okay, so you got +1 on that one because the Falcons won. The next one was Dolphins at Bills. I picked Dolphins.
So did I.
Okay, so that cancels out. Cowboys at Giants. I picked Giants.
Cowboys.
Okay, so you got another +2. The next one, Lions at Packers. I picked Packers.
So did I.
Okay. Jets at Patriots. I picked Patriots.
So did I.
Okay. Panthers at Saints. I picked Saints.
Same.
Okay. Then Jaguars at Texans. I picked Texans.
Same.
Okay. Bears at Vikings. I picked Bears.
Vikings.
Okay, so I got +1 there. Bengals at Steelers. I picked Steelers.
So did I.
Okay.
Oh, I won. I already. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Well,
I think
you don't know what I picked though. You
Uh,
can't know if you won. You don't know what I picked these last 6 games.
it doesn't matter. But I won't spoil it now.
What do
So
you
we'll
mean?
keep going.
Okay, explain. No. Explain to me how you know that.
So, because right now I'm +1 on you, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've won all the remaining picks. So even if you pick the winning game, then you would still finish one behind me.
Okay. Well, I also won all the remaining picks. So that means you were up by 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick to recap. So Bengals at Steelers. Steelers was correct. Browns at Ravens. Ravens was correct. Chargers at Broncos. Chargers won. Correct. Raiders at Chiefs. Chiefs was correct. 49ers at Rams. Rams was correct. And then Eagles at Redskins. Eagles was correct. And Cardinals at Seahawks. Seahawks. Colts at Titans. Colts. All right, so that means that Joseph was 12-4, right?
Yes.
12-4. And Joseph won at life and ended the season at 160, 95, and 2, which I believe is 62%. And mine was like 62.3%, so I think yours is like 62.5, or I guess if you round up 63. So, congratulations. Very, very close year.
No, very good. I won't rub it in.
By the way, that was Joseph's hands, so he was giving himself a round of applause.
I would have given you a round.
Feel free to shout out, give Joseph a congrats in the chat, in the YouTube chat. Awesome job. I wasn't expecting it to be that close because we've had a lot of weeks where we've had anywhere from 3 to 5 games where we've differed. So it's pretty amazing that it ended up being that close.
Yeah, we joke on here and like we're rubbing in it, but I'm not going to rub it in. I'll say it very seriously now. We've been doing this for years, making picks, and I remember one pick'em league we did on Yahoo, and we've pretty much always ended within like 3 to 5 of each other. So even obviously someone has to win or lose once we tie, but even then we're close. So, but yeah, this year was very close. I'm surprised it came down to the last week, and it was really cool for us to not know until now who had won what game. I thought you won. My thinking was you either went 14-2 or 10-6, because I thought you were going to pick the Bills, the Lions, or the Panthers.
Yeah, I just had horrendous 10 o'clock games, and then my afternoon was perfect.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, no, we both had a strong week, but you picked up 1, so good job. All right, so our final segment of the night is playoff predictions. So there's 4 games this next Saturday and Sunday, 2 each. I did them just in random order, so I guess I'll just say which one we're starting with. I did it by NFC, AFC. So the first game is Eagles at Bears. So what do you think?
I give the edge to the Bears. Honestly, this might be one of the clearest games of the week. So I'm giving the edge to the Bears, but I don't know. Does Foles have some more magic in him? What do you think?
Yeah, so I the Eagles have been hot, and they're hot going into the playoffs. They're hot at the right time. I feel like the Bears have also been pretty hot, but not quite as hot. And because the Bears have the home field, I'd say I give them just this like a 55-45 edge probably.
Yes, I'll agree with that. Same here. I'll go Bears.
Yeah, so I picked Bears for that one. And then the second NFC game is Seahawks at Cowboys.
Oh,
And this
this
is
is
frustrating for a variety of reasons. But I actually am leaning towards the Seahawks for this. I think they're kind of rolling into the playoffs, and the Cowboys. So to be fair, after the Cowboys traded for Amari Cooper, their season totally turned around, and they've won the vast majority of their games since then. And so they're going into the playoffs, I think, okay. I don't feel like they're hot. I feel like they're
no.
just okay. So it'll be a close game, but I'm actually picking the road team on this one.
I I still feel undecided. Like I've been wrestling with this game uh, for a while, and it's been known that this was going to be the game between them because their seeds were set last week. But I think I'm going to agree with you, man. I think I'm going to give. I want to pick Cowboys, but for me it's like 51-49, and I'm leaning towards Seahawks, so I'll go Seahawks.
Okay. And obviously we will celebrate if and when Seattle loses in the playoffs. Of course, we will not stop celebrating. Okay, so the AFC games. First one, Colts at Texans.
Brutal, dude. All other than the Eagles Bears games, the other three games are all brutal.
We're getting in the chat that Cowboys got this. Well, I hope they got this because I don't want Seattle to win.
Yeah,
But
same here. I think I know who said that, and I hope.
I'm picking the Seahawks still.
Yeah,
But I'm
I
rooting
want
for
the
the Cowboys.
I want the Cowboys to win too. If Elliott can run well, but if the Cowboys cannot stop Carson and oh, I forgot last minute advice. Spoke with my uncle Christmas about this, and if the Cowboys want to win, here's how you're gonna do it. To stop Russell Wilson, you got to set the edge to not let him be able to run out of the pocket.
Oh yeah, that's what I said.
And,
If you're going to beat Seattle, you have to set the edge and you have
rush
to
up the
defend
middle.
the fade.
Yeah, rush up the middle. So two great minds think alike, you two. So I'm glad you guys have been saying that all along, and that's how they're going to do it. But I don't think they will. I'm afraid that Carson's going to run well, and they'll find a way to win terribly like they always do, right? So back to the Colts. Colts are hot. Colts are very hot. Texans are home, but like I mentioned earlier, they have some injuries. Very difficult game to pick. Very, very difficult, in my opinion. I think Watson will show up and play well. I'm giving the Colts the slight edge, though. I'm going Colts.
Same here, man. I feel like the Colts are really hot and the Texans are kind of hobbling in. So
Yeah.
it's a division game. I'm giving it to the Colts with an edge.
Same.
Last game, Chargers at Ravens.
Ooh. Well, this could be, good for revenge, right? Because the Ravens, beat up on the Chargers pretty bad a few weeks ago, or two weeks ago, because that was when we were watching the part of that game, weren't we? We watched the score. Yeah, yeah. So even though that was in LA, so good chance for revenge here. I think Rivers will show up. Again, very close, basically a 50-50. I'm going to give the slight edge. I'm going to say it's a 53-47 and give it to the Chargers. I think Rivers will show up, kind of end the whole Chargers playoff curse they've had for like a decade.
All right.
And we'll take out that defense. Lamar Jackson, he's been great on his feet, this past month or so, but I don't think it'll be enough, and the Chargers will find a way to barely win at the end.
Okay, so you're going to hate me for this, but not only am I saying that the Ravens are going to win this game.
Oh no.
The Ravens are my AFC favorite.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
Not because I like them. We've already talked about
Oh yeah,
this.
yeah, we
The
know
only
that.
thing I like about the Ravens is their jerseys. But the they are probably the hottest team coming into the playoffs.
I
Not
thought
many
I
teams have had to play Jackson this year, and they've just seemed totally revitalized. They are my AFC favorite, and
you think
I'm
are
saying that even with the Chiefs.
you think they're gonna roll into Kansas City or Foxborough?
I think so.
Man. Well,
Prove me wrong, bro. No,
well,
that's I'm sticking to
Rivers.
my guns on this. That's my
All right,
pick.
all right.
So, all right. Well, a little bit longer of a show, but we had a lot of fun stuff to cover. It's the end of the regular season, so it deserves a little bit more time. Thanks so much, guys, for sticking with us these 16 episodes and kind of experiencing the very highs and very lows that we had, especially if you're a Niners and Dolphins fan or Dolphins fan. So to clarify, we will be having our regular show during the postseason. The show is not over for the year. We will be going through January and up until we're going to have our final episode the Monday after Super Bowl Sunday. So stick around. That's another 5 episodes or so. We're going to be back on track with our normal schedule at 8:30 p.m. Pacific. We'll go live. And we'll be talking about all of the playoff games that'll happen, and we also have some special surprise segments for you guys upcoming. So I hope you stick around. So that's a wrap for this week. Have a wonderful New Year's Eve. Stay safe. If you've enjoyed today's episode or any of our past episodes, please like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube, as those are free ways for you to support our show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at The Practice Squad and at Neuralizer_. Just as a reminder, if you've missed past episodes, you can watch or listen to them right here on my YouTube channel. I typically upload Tuesday evenings the day after we go live. As always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Happy New Year's, April.